to another episode of Fabulous TV. I'm your host, Vanessa Kappas, and I'm actually extremely excited to be spearheading this conversation today. It's been a long time coming. I've actually talked behind the scenes with these fabulous ladies that I have with us today, because this is a topic that's very close to my heart. A lot of you know, if you've been following my blog for years, that I suffered from postpartum depression. It's actually the reason why I started blogging, and it's what blogging was actually one of those tools that I used to release a lot of it. And I began to create a community of just women that, when they began to read the stories of how I just was handling the days that I was feeling the lowest, would message me privately and say how, you know, just in sharing my stories, it would allow them to relate and see themselves in those moments of just desperation and sadness and inability to just cope with their day-to-day. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation, especially with these amazing women who are just professionals in their fields, is because every time that I tend to write about this topic specifically, it seems to always strike a chord with women. I think that, you know, we've come a long way when it comes to women empowering women and mothers who are working moms, and finding support groups and finding communities where women feel more supported than they have in the past. But I think that this is like a topic that is still very sensitive for some, because I feel that women still are trying to find that balance, which I feel balance just
do we ever find balance?
We always want to compare ourselves to the other mom who seems to have it all together,
right.
And we always seem to feel like we're lacking because the mom that decided to stay home with the kids,
right.
And we miss it and we reminisce, and am I doing right by my children? So I really wanted to have a conversation because, again, I tend to, you know, share advice based on what I know, but I'm not a mental health professional, and I know that I nipped that in the bud very quickly when I realized what was happening with me. And I wanted to, you know, start this conversation to also start to destigmatize this, because I think that there is such a stigma around
The S word. You said it. You said it.
You know, it's you know, that number one, I think we all go through this and in some way, shape, or form. I wanted to have the conversation with you guys. So I want to take a moment, obviously, first introduce yourselves and tell us what you do. You guys are right here in our community, and they can reach out to you if they need the support. Let's start with you, Jerry.
Okay, so I'm Jerry Vigiani. I co-own Lotus Blossom Psychotherapy in Eatontown. I specialize in trauma. I do work with addictions. And more pertinent to this discussion, I work with moms who have postpartum depression, anxiety, and birth trauma.
Okay. Julie?
I'm Dr. Joe Lieberman with Abrams Psychological Services, and we have an office in Tinton Falls and in Fords, and we specialize in maternal mental health as part of Birth Babies and Beyond. And that's really my passion, because I feel like that's such an underserved, as you had said, population, and that nobody wants to acknowledge needs the help, and they really do.
Okay, and Hilary?
I'm Hilary Shearer, co-owner of the Empowerment Center, New Jersey. I specialize in anxiety, licensed counselor, and kind of wanting to get the message across that therapy isn't only for crisis situations. You know, it's for empowering ourselves, it's for, you know, wellness.
So one of the things that I wanted to touch on is symptoms, right? How do we know that there's something going on? Because I know that for myself, when I started to realize that there was a problem was when maybe 3 or 4 months into it, I realized that I would shower and get ready literally 15 to 20 minutes when my husband would, right before my husband would come home from work. So that I knew that I wouldn't literally in pajamas, sweats all day, but when I knew he was coming home, it would be when I was like, okay, I gotta let him know that everything is okay, because if I pretend that everything is okay, then it is okay. Then it is okay,
Yes,
right?
yes.
How can we? How do we know? What are some of the symptoms that, you know, can alert us that there's a problem, or that can alert family and friends that there may be a problem?
So I think part of it is kind of reconceptualizing based on what Hilary said. It doesn't have to be to the level of a problem, right? It has to be at a point where you know you can be doing better, right? So, and it's such a new situation that everything seems like it could be better.
Right.
But it's understanding that if you're feeling like you're not at your best, there might be a way of getting you to your best. You don't have to wait until you're no longer showering or no longer doing things you want to be doing to seek help. The earlier you seek help, the easier it will be. Putting a little bit of water on a small fire is better than putting a lot of water on a big fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Right.
just to add on to that is, I think incorporating mindfulness, like just being aware, taking that constant self-inventory, both prior to pregnancy, during pregnancy, and just being aware of your emotions. And should you start to notice some red flags or early warning signs, that's kind of the best way, is to just keep as in tune with your body that's going crazy anyway, you know, in the
And
moments.
I also think too, like, if you just don't feel right, like something feels not right, like you're not connecting to the baby, or you feel constantly sort of like hyper vigilant, like you're always looking out for danger, you feel really on edge and anxious, like irritability, like
Yeah.
you're yelling at everybody, everybody's getting on your nerves. You're gonna feel some of that because you're tired,
Yeah.
understandably so, but this is like, it feels beyond that.
Yeah.
You feel alone, and lonely,
Crying.
Yeah.
a lot of crying spells.
Yeah.
It could even get worse, you know, you could start feeling suicidal, or like you wanna hurt yourself or the baby.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, understandable because there's a lot going on in your body, and, you know, with all the hormones and
Yeah.
stuff like that, but it's also not okay. You
Yeah.
need to talk to someone at that point.
And that's a time when people try to hide it the most,
Yeah.
because
Right.
it's so scary to have
Yes.
those thoughts. It's so
Mhm.
scary to admit having those thoughts.
Right,
And-
that people tend to, that's the last thing people admit.
right.
Correct.
That's where I remember it actually, where it scared me the most, where I actually thought that I was losing my mind, because I was like, am I actually having these thoughts? And for me, it wasn't, you know, I thank God, I mean, for myself, it was never about hurting my baby, because it didn't happen with Sam, it happened with Tomas. It was it was the sense of, is motherhood all that is left for me in my life? Like, is this all that life is cracked up to be, right? Because I had gone to college, and I had all these dreams and these aspirations of being this go-getter, and, you know, I was doing really amazing in this job that I had just gotten in the fashion industry, and then I had this baby.
And it was like, little person, you are now completely dependent on me. What am I going to do with you? And I can't return you. So, because you're mine and I love
And
you,
you're mine forever.
and you're
Yes.
mine forever.
Yes.
But what about me? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, you've just become a mom.
Yeah.
You know, and it's amazing and all these things and a million different emotions, but it's also like, where am I?
Yes.
Where is Vanessa? I
Yeah.
love doing this. I love it. And so a big part in the self-care aspect, right, would be continuing to schedule time, even during these crazy hectic times, to do what you like. If
Yeah.
it's drawing or watching the Real Housewives in New Jersey for
Yeah.
1 hour, whatever it is, dancing,
Yeah.
cooking,
Yeah.
you know, and finding that.
And if it becomes one of your identities, so motherhood becomes one of your identities,
Yeah.
then you can incorporate that in a healthy way. It
Yeah.
sounds like what it became, what you were interpreting it as, this is going to be my only identity.
Correct.
I am now a mother, and we've wiped out everything else that was,
Well, because my environment was making it out to be that
This is it.
Yeah, this is it. Because I was also very isolated. Remember, I mean, for myself, you know, I had just moved to a new country. My husband's family was from another state. My family is in another country. So it was me, the baby, and my husband. So not only was that a problem, 24/7 baby, dogs, house, cleaning, trying to breastfeed, which I wasn't doing enough of. So then I feel like completely miserable, because then I also didn't have that down.
right.
So
I
then-
even failed at the one job I now
Right,
have.
exactly.
Right.
So this is the one thing that I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm not doing that. So, okay, so what now? And I think that's something that I really wanted to also touch on is, you know, because when you're saying, you know, taking on that soul identity, you know, it's so important that we, and it took me a couple of years to really understand, like, okay, I get it. This is just not
Right.
who I am.
I'm a mother and all of these other things. Not I'm a mother instead of all these things I used to be.
It's a petal on the flower
Yes.
that is Vanessa.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
I also think it's important to understand that your situation was not singular.
Yeah.
That this happens to lots and lots of
Yes.
women. I
Yes,
also
yes.
had postpartum
Yeah.
depression with my first daughter, and that's what I was alluding to earlier. That feeling of being alone or isolated, like I'm the only one. I must be a bad mother,
Yeah.
and like telling yourself that message over and over and over again when there's tons of resources
Yeah.
out there and tons of moms that feel the same way. It's like a huge change in your life,
Yeah.
in your body, and who you are.
And it's so, going back to just touching one more thing about on stigma is because, like, in my culture, in Latin American cultures, postpartum depression is just not a thing.
Acknowledged.
Like, it's just not a thing.
You're
It just
right.
does not happen. My
Right.
mother was like, what? Like,
Right. Suck it up. And
What do you mean?
and you better be
beautiful baby.
breastfeeding on top of it. Like,
Yeah.
it was, and
Sure.
I'm like, but it's just not, like,
Right.
it's just not happening.
So that's
Yeah.
something to talk about too, though, is
Yeah.
cultural norms,
Yeah.
societal norms, and the pressure for women to like bounce back,
Yeah.
not only to their like little waistline or whatever, but bounce back to work,
Yeah.
bounce back to every other thing you do, the laundry, the cooking,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
and that's kind of really a ridiculous expectation.
Yeah.
And especially for women for whom postpartum depression happens with their first child, they don't know any other way.
Exactly.
Right? So if it happens with your second child, you know this is not how it has to be.
Correct.
But if this is your first child, this is the only life you know, and you
Correct.
assume this is going to be like this forever.
Yeah.
Just how crappy you feel right now will be how you feel for the duration of this child's life, and that can't possibly be tolerable.
So how do we change it? What do we do?
Speaking the truth.
Yeah.
But like you're encouraging this culture of women to like tell their truth. It doesn't help us if you came to me when you were going through this and we were friends and you were like, hey Hilary, how do you do it? And I'm like, oh my god, it's so easy. And like you walk out and you have like vomit on your shoulder and like poop under your fingernail.
Yeah.
It's a sucky
Yeah,
feeling.
yeah,
but
yeah,
if
yeah.
we're all, honest, like, yeah, I'm having a really rough time.
Yeah.
All of these things.
No, I have a friend that used to call me out and be like, you better stop telling people. Because I would literally, like, if I would have, like, is this your first? Oh my God, let me tell. And they were like, no, stop talking to people. Like, stop it. You're going to scare people. And I'm like, no, people need to know the truth. It is not as, it's
Not Facebook Live.
It's not
Right.
this filtered,
Right.
glamorous. Like, it is a miracle. And thank God,
Yes.
like, I always thought that I wasn't going to be able to have children. So the gift, it's a gift. Yes, I get it. 100% awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you, Lord Jesus, for allowing me this amazing 2 bundles of joy. But my Lord, like,
Right.
it's
Why
been.
didn't somebody tell me?
But why didn't
Yeah.
why didn't somebody tell me? Like, jaundice is a thing, and I
Right,
didn't
yeah,
know what
so
that
is
would.
colic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember one of the most important milestones that I remember in my daughter's life was when I went to work clean for the first time. Like, I didn't have anything on me.
Right.
I managed to get dressed and make it all the way to my
No
office.
spit up down your
clean.
back, right?
And I'm like, my life has truly changed. Because there's a really long
Yep.
period of time where that was just the norm. Yes,
Yep.
that's what I'm going to look like today. This is it.
See, that's a valid point. It's like talking about it, like
Correct.
talking about it to other moms, not being afraid to say like, it's only me. Again, I'm the bad mom. Like the first time that I remember telling another mom, and I like wanted to hug them and say like, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
this you feel this
Yeah,
way
yeah,
too."
yeah,
yeah.
You know, like
100%,
I'm
yeah.
not a bad person.
And I have to tell you, it was one woman in my circle when I had just like started my business in New York, Pattee Lennon, and I'll give her a shout out, that came to me. And I remember we were networking, and it was one of those days when I was just like really having a tough time. And I was like about to just burst into tears. And she just said to me, girl, we're like, you got this. Like, this is not just you. Like, you're not alone. And just by her saying to me, you're not alone, it completely shifted just my perception of, oh, okay, so if she's doing it, then I could totally do it. And from that moment on, like, it just completely shifted my perspective of, then I have to be an example for other women to show them that, you know what, don't tell me that this is impossible. Like, don't tell me that we cannot make this happen. And one of the reasons why obviously I have all three of you here is because on top of everything else, you're also moms, you're juggling your careers, you're doing something that is of such service to women and obviously men also, but mental health is just something that I advocate for. People, please, like,
Get help.
like, please,
Reach out. There's
reach
no
out.
shame in the
There
game.
is no shame in
Yeah.
reaching out for help and
Yeah.
getting someone to just have a conversation with. It's something that I advocate. It's something that there's a reason why I have women who are doing this professionally because I didn't feel comfortable in continuing to just blog away, like, do this, do that. I'm not, professionally capable of giving advice. So who better to, have than three women who do this for a living. But my point is, there is no shame in getting help and support. And oh my God, it can literally shift not just your life, but everyone around you.
It could save your life.
Correct.
Really,
Yeah.
you know.
It also can make your life easier. So all those things that you're struggling with, you don't necessarily have to struggle. You're not paying dues. You're not only a good mother if you suffered through it.
Correct.
If you can have an easier journey, have one.
Yes.
There's no, you don't get extra points for having done it the difficult way.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. There's no need to suffer. And there's a lot of changes going on. Like there's after-birth doulas now. There's, people that can help you with breastfeeding. Tell your obstetrician that, your symptoms, they're supposed to be asking, but if they don't ask, tell them because they can connect you with resources, which there are plenty out there.
Another thing that I want to touch on before we go is just this sense of, I think of this lack that we're not doing enough for our kids. Like that's one of the things that I wanted to close on. When we decide to then pursue our professional endeavors. Like I feel that obviously, Glenn Close went viral a few months ago at the Golden Globes for saying, personal fulfillment and that, she always remembers her mother because of the guilt, that she never actually got to pursue her dreams and her passions. But as women, we need to pursue our passions because yes, we're mothers and we're nurturers, yada, yada, and the list could go on. But again, as we were talking before, this whole disconnectedness that we feel from, believing that motherhood is like this one pinnacle of like that's like the ultimate womanhood goal, right? Like if we become a mom, then we're
succeeded
then,
already.
then no, then like we could die. Like that's it, we're done. We don't have to aspire to do anything else in life because we've birthed a human being. But what about pursuing, becoming a writer, hiking a mountain, taking a road trip with a girlfriend, going away for a weekend. I have a woman, there's a woman in our group that goes scrapbooking every year with her family. And I find that to be so, I'm like, I would love to just do that. Like go away for a weekend and like just lock ourselves up in a hotel room and just like scrapbook. I've never done it. I'm sure that's a lot of fun. But I'm sure that's a lot of fun. Like with no kids, like awesome. Our conference that we do at ETT Women, it's disconnected from children and husbands and partners or whatever. How do we come to terms with understanding that it's okay to give ourselves the opportunity to do that?
So there was an analogy I heard, and I don't remember where it was. Maybe one of you will know, but that kind of scenario when you're on an airplane and something's going wrong and the oxygen masks fall down and they say, even if you're traveling with your kid, put your oxygen mask on first. Why? Because we need to be our best and at our strongest to be able to then be the best moms, be the best writers, whatever, and all these things to other people. So I think we do that by honoring our passions and adding that into our self-care routine. And if we don't have a self-care routine, we gotta get one. Just incorporating the, like scrapbooking. Hey, you know what? 2 days a week, mom's gonna go do yoga or whatever it is. It's just, I would say, incorporating a self-care routine, and just putting yourself kind of, and your needs up here rather than after significant other, children, household, whatever it is.
And I think you're setting a great example for your children,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you can have this fulfilling life with lots of different facets in it.
Yeah.
you
That you're
know?
more than just one thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But two other things that I want to kind of highlight from what you said is on both ends of the spectrum. One is you will feel guilty that you're not doing enough for your children no matter what you do.
Yeah.
If you went to shower, those were 15 minutes that you could have spent, I don't know, sewing on buttons or whatever.
Ironing.
So the guilt is there regardless. Just accept that as the, kind of
Yeah.
there and move on. Like you
Yeah.
don't need to do only the things that don't make you feel guilty because everything makes you feel guilty.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
On the other side, I thought something really important that you said is we often do this work versus home dynamic,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then you have to choose career, and if you do career, then now that's two things. But there's so many things that people can do,
Yeah.
and you can explore yourself in a lot of ways. You can hike, you can scrapbook. It doesn't. It's not only about going back to work or finding a career. It's finding what works for you.
Yeah.
And also, if being home with your kids most of the time works for you, that's great.
Yeah.
If being at work most of the time for you works for you, that's great. It only has to work for you and your family.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't have to work for society at large. It doesn't have to fill some sort of greater need. It's really about you and your family and your kids and being able to be around when they need the air mask.
Well
Right?
said, yeah.
And I think children get a lot of benefit from being with extended family and with other caregivers as well.
Yeah.
It offers them other perspectives.
Yeah.
So you're right, as far as, you were still gonna maybe feel guilty
Yeah.
about it, and
Yeah.
there's this perfectionistic, supermom, superwoman stigma that goes with that, but understanding that we can just notice that
And move on.
Move on.
All right. And it's okay for kids to know that they can't have everything they want.
Right.
Right? So if
Yeah.
they want to be
Say
with
that
mom
Wait.
on tape.
Looking at the camera.
Right.
So if they want to be with you all the time and they can't, that's okay because that's what life's about. Sometimes
yeah.
they can't do the things that they want.
Right. Yeah. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt.
There's another quote that I've stolen from somewhere that I can't remember the origin for is don't put their wants ahead of your needs.
Yes.
And that's so your kids do need to get fed, right? That's a need.
Yeah.
They don't need to go on a play date,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
so differentiate between needs and wants and the fact that you need to eat and that's okay,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Ladies, thank you so much. I think all of this information is going to really help a lot of women. I hope it helps a lot of women. I know that it's helped me. It's a matter of being open to the conversation and letting go of the judgment because no one is here to judge. I think that the more that we continue to talk about these topics and mental health in general, because I've been seeing one of your friends for many years, and I'm grateful that I have, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to deal with 95% of the issues that I've had in my
It's
life.
true.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks for bringing up this topic.